All right. Are we there? See if we're live here. I think I might have got this working. Here tonight. It's late. I've been like in here, like typing away, trying to figure out what's what. And hello, everyone. If you can hear me, let me know. Let me know how the sound is. I'm on a real camera. I'm actually wired into sound right now, so the sound should be like super clear and amazing. Hello, world. Is the sound super clear and amazing? That's what I need to know. I'm looking over here. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to move the preview window. Check this out. I'm going to move the preview window over to my second monitor over here so I can kind of see the preview and interact with you guys, because that's what this is all about. And I did get the quality picked up. We should have a 720p stream. This is coming out of a Sony a6500 through a Rode microphone, out an HDMI cable, and into a Cerevo Live Shell 2 going out to YouTube. I know that sounds incredibly complicated because it is. The Live Shell is kind of kludgy. I mean, like, I got this weird dashboard over here to like set it up. I kid you not, to program the Wi-Fi network into this streaming box, I used an audio cable plugged into the headphone jack of my computer, okay? And then plugged into the back of this, and it transmitted this audio signal that sent the Wi-Fi settings to the Cerevo live stream. But it is working. What concerns me about it is I got this so that I can kind of quickly set up quality live streams instead of just streams from the phone, right? Streams that we can do HDMI switching on, and we're trying to raise the quality. We're working on some new vlogging stuff. I've got this whole portable new vlogging rig that I made, and if you go over to my other channel, Photographic School, which is kind of my day job channel, where I make products and stuff. If you search for Seim or Photographic School on YouTube, you'll see what I mean. In fact, let me just show you guys here, since this is kind of a mild goofing around. I'm gonna paste the link to this. Here's my other channel in here, and I've been doing some work over there, so you can kind of see what I've been doing with. But I made this new run and gun kind of camera, because these are great. But guys, I'm actually what most people don't know is they see me live streaming like this and running around doing activism. See your comments in there, guys. Awesome. Is that I actually know what I'm doing with this stuff to a degree. Maybe not so much with live streaming, but in terms of photography and visuals, I've been doing that for 20 years. I actually have a master's degree in photography. So we're trying to kind of raise the bar on that. Doesn't mean, let me be clear, when I'm on the street dealing with cops, this is going to be the tool, because the most powerful tool is the one you have with you, right? But I'm playing around. We're setting up this new rig, trying to raise the bar a little bit, raise the production value, do some more vlogging on our different channels, stuff like that. Now check this out. There's in the chat room here, there's now this $sign at the bottom. I'm using a corded mouse because it's better. Okay, so there's this $sign in the chat room here, and there's this new feature where you can send a super chat. Basically, it's a revenue generation thing for YouTube and for me, hopefully. So anyway, what you can do is you can send a super chat, and what it does is it posts this highlighted chat, and it features you at the top of the chat, and it shows that you've made a donation. And I think it's kind of cool. But I don't know, it's a little cheesy too. I mean, is anybody really going to pay money to have their comment featured at the top of the comments? And the thing is, what's funny about it, it's an interesting thing YouTube has set up here, because you got these chats and there's a lot going on, and you have this super chat, and so you can highlight your comment, pin it to the top, and it shows at the top with your donation. And then, depending on how you donate, it's featured for a certain amount of time at the top. So it's kind of interesting. I turned it on, and we'll see what happens. But anyways, making sure. Let's watch the trolls. Oh, I see a couple trolls in here. Hey, let's check it out. Let's do some troll. How about some, anybody down for some troll banning here? People, the cop worshipers. Look, I don't hate cops. Remember, it's funny because no matter what I do, right? No matter what I say, no matter how much I love my neighbor, Try to reach out to the cops. Try to educate them. People say, oh, you hate cops, you're the problem. The problem is people are following a false authority. That's where all this comes from. My authority is God, right? Now, not everybody believes like me. Okay, that's your right. But let's take our natural rights, life, liberty, and property. That's an authority. But what's happening is we have all these fake authorities in society. But society sees, listen to me for a second, I'm going to say something that might matter. And then we'll dig into our in-depth reading of the Complete Bill of Rights. No, just kidding. Not tonight. Good book, though. It's expensive, but it's a very good book. Okay, so listen. And I do a lot of marketing study books and stuff for my business and just for the message and communication studies and things like that. And this goes back to like the Milgram experiments. If you don't know about the Milgram experiments, you need to look these up. Milgram was the guy who did the studies where they did this study where the people were supposed to be electrically shocking someone for answering a question wrong to the point where they've died. Of course, the person dying on the other end wasn't a real person, or to the point where they went silent or unconscious, and because they shocked them. They just kept raising the level of the shocks, right? There's a movie about this called The Experimenter that is pretty cool. It's kind of a documentary / movie. But the Milgram experiments, most of the people, if they were told to by their perceived authority, because they perceived the tester, the professor, as an authority, right? Now, the subject of the test was thinking that they were shocking somebody in the back room. So they'd ask a question over a microphone, the person would answer it, and if they got it wrong, they were supposed to shock them. And then each time they got a question wrong, they raised the shock, okay? Until the shock got to be like 600 volts or something like that. And it would get to the point, the person in the back room was part of the test, so he wasn't actually being shocked. And in the back room, he'd be playing back these tapes of himself talking, and it would get to the point where he'd be screaming and saying, stop, I don't consent anymore, I don't consent anymore. And they'd turn to the sweating to the experimenter and they'd say, should I stop? What should I do? And he would say, you need to continue the experiment, just assertively. He wouldn't force them, he wasn't forcing them. They continued shocking in almost, I don't know, it was like 80% of the cases or something, right? Okay? Now, this was huge. This was like in the 60s, and there was a series, this kind of prompted a whole series of studies, because Milgram's peers thought that like 1% or less would actually comply with this. And it was something like, I forget the number, was it 90% or 85%, some huge number, like over 2/3 shocked to the end, right? And the rest still shocked, I think 100% shocked past when the people said they wanted to stop. And eventually a few of them stopped and said, I can't do this anymore. So Milgram was ostracized by the science and philosophical education community. I mean, you know, I know how this feels, right? I'm ostracized all the time in my own movements. But he was attacked because they were saying he was unprincipled because of what he exposed. What's new, right? When you expose the truth, they attack you. But what these and many other studies have revealed is that who people see as an authority, they tend to follow orders of. So yes, we have a lot of cops out there that are bullies and vindictive and like to hurt people. We also have a lot of cops that are just apathetic and lazy and want a paycheck, and they're just following orders. It's okay because they're following orders. How often have you heard, I'm just doing my job? You've heard that a lot in my videos, right? Okay? But there's no such thing as just doing your job. There's right and wrong. And the irony of a cop saying that is their job is actually to protect, where's my Constitution, to protect your life, your liberty, and your property. So in fact, they are not doing their job even in the clinical sense. Not that it would matter if that was actually their job, because violating someone's rights is still a crime, no matter what badge you wear. Here's what I'm getting at, though. Society sees an authority figure and says, well, I should probably do what the authority figure says. What is an authority mentality of society, right? Think about this for a moment. Okay, I say my authority is God, and that's why I love my neighbor as myself. The officer says my authority is my commander, and so I do whatever he tells me no matter what, right? Remember the story of the guy from the 70s? He was a protester. I forget his name, Michael somebody. Somebody shout it out if they remember, okay? And him and his friends were protesting the U.S. and all the wars and stuff they were involved in. This was after Vietnam, and they laid on the railroad tracks. And the guy driving the train, there was no reason he couldn't have stopped. They knew he was there. He called in and said, I'm going to be here. He expected to be arrested. He was making a protest. The guy driving the train was told to run him over. And so he did. He ran him over and he cut off his legs. This is another story you can look up. Because he had orders, right? He was doing what he was told. I'm just doing my job. Really? No. Okay, but there's an authority. So what's the perceived authority of a society that overrides, guys? I'm going to tell you right now. Aside from our conscience, right? And our moral values, right? What is the general overarching authority of a society? Can anybody tell me? I'm watching the chat. All right? Here it is. I'm coming with it. Shame. Shame. I'm talking about an authority that supersedes, in many cases, the authority of the commanding officer, right? Why can all the police, right? Somebody said society itself. That's very close. Society itself, if they say that's not okay, it's not considered okay. So all these cops, they're all suited up, strutting around the grocery store like they're heroes, right? Because everybody, their commanders and society is always lauding them like they're heroes. We saw this shooting this last week. And look, I don't celebrate when a cop is shot. I don't want anybody to lose their family. I want these people to change their hearts and humble themselves and stop abusing people. Okay? But we saw these parades before the so-called perpetrator, was this yesterday, was even captured, right? They had this house surrounded. Before it was even done, the state troopers were having parades from the hospital to celebrate. They demand that we make monuments to their dead. Now, being a police officer isn't a particular dangerous job. And so when one of them dies, whether for real or for false flag, right? When one of them dies, they make a huge deal about it, more than anybody else when they die, right? It's like the Pope just died. And I'm sitting there thinking, look, I'm sad that somebody lost their father, their husband, their brother, right? But what about the people that you killed? Where was the parade for the people that your officers shot down in cold blood? All right? So, shame. Shame is an overarching authority in society. Now, people try to shame me, right? All the trolls are always shaming me. I get the video from Texas. Have you seen the video of the girl cop from Texas? If you haven't, go watch it. Look at the level of outrage from the cop worshipers. Now, Texas, I've never caught more flack for standing up for the rule of law in any state than in Texas. They are an incredibly statist state. But they run around, right? Society is all telling them, in their society, in that state, they're always crowing about how free they are, even though their police are completely out of control, their government's super corrupt. And sure, do they have more freedoms in certain areas? Yes. But you know what's funny about Texas? Texas, who's always saying how free they are, their gun laws are far more draconian than right here in Washington State. Okay, they're just catching up to socialist, liberal Washington State here on gun laws. And yet they're always saying how free they are. Now, I'm not here to pick on Texas. I'm here to say that because their mindset, they have this mindset of the police are good, the government is good, go freedom, right? It's nationalism that's promoted all over the country, but especially in a state like Texas. And so it's this fake idea of freedom to shame those who speak out against the officials, right? They're using shame in reverse. They're using it against us, but we can use it to them. When I stop a police officer, I'm not trying to hurt him. I'm saying what you're doing is shameful, officer. And have you noticed how often they run away? Because even just me standing up to them and saying, this isn't okay what you're doing, they don't want to deal with it. Imagine if as a society collectively we started shaming the officer. I don't mean violently assaulting them or losing our principle. We need to keep the principled high ground. I mean, if the officer is like, I don't want to wear my uniform to the store because it's shameful, right? I don't want people to see me in that uniform, right? Historically, guys, this is a new thing that cops and soldiers are automatically heroes. Historically, like the soldier, the city watch, they're kind of lowlifes. They're kind of known to take advantage and to abuse, right? It's a recent thing. They've marketed They're enforcers, not the peacemakers anymore, but enforcers of their fake law on us. And then they turn around and they shame those who speak out against them. But each time we collectively raise our voice in resistance to that and start saying, wait a minute, we're not ashamed of speaking out against your corruption, your treason, your terrorism, and your abuse of your fellow man and their rights. You're the one that's shameful. See? And the more of us say that, the louder our voice becomes on that, the more powerful it becomes. And so as society, as we use our voice to shame tyranny and evil, right? Not to abuse people, but to shame what is actually shameful. Then we push back. Then it's suddenly, as that grows, it's not okay. It's not, the cop doesn't automatically think so much, oh, I'm automatically a hero, because he knows that a lot of people think he doesn't. To actually tell the officer what you're doing is wrong, that's shameful. Why would you do that to someone? Why would you lock people in a concentration camp? Why would you put someone in solitary confinement and mental abuse, right? Ammon Bundy just got out of solitary confinement today after 40 days, guys. No shower, fed through a hole, super limited communications, without proper bedding. People have no idea that have never been in solitary confinement. I've been in solitary for a super short time, a few hours. Solitary is a nightmare, you guys. If you've been in solitary, shout out. Let people know. It's bad news. If you've been in jail, shout out. The jails are evil. They're not justice. They have nothing to do with it. And people say, well, you shouldn't have done the crime if you don't want to do the time. Guys, most people in jail have not even been convicted. They've never had a trial by jury. They've never had their due process. And even the ones that have had a trial, their due process was still violated. So here's the thing. I assume still, because it's the law, I assume, because it's right, that everyone in prison in America is still innocent. I know some of them did bad things, but I can't know that in their case because none of them were proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt according to the law. So the trolls, they take things. They've been taking my Wikipedia page, and the trolls have been like hacking my Wikipedia page and vandalizing it and trying to spin my words in a way to make me look like this terrible person. But I'm simply speaking for the law. All right? It's just the law. It's just liberty. Shame has power when we shame with principle and we shame evil. We shame tyranny, okay? So people always say, Gavin, we want solutions. We want solutions. What some people want me to say is, let's get together and go to war. Guys, going to war rarely fixes anything. We need a revolution of hearts. Rarely does the violence actually fix it. They use violence against us. They have way bigger guns, and violence just kind of breeds more violence. I'm not saying people don't have a right to self-defense or that there's never a time to stand up. But that should be the last resort. People aren't even standing up. They're not even speaking out. You're not ready to stand up until you have at least a group of people where you have hearts and minds and unity and people working together and shaming evil. In the American Revolution, the British were frequently shamed. It wasn't like the mindset of society in 1774 was that the British were automatically good guys. Guys, the loyalists in the American Revolution would even oppose what the redcoats were doing. Now, we have most of America actually supporting the tyranny as long as it's not them. See, the hearts have to change, and we change that with our voice. The action step is to pick up your cameras. It's to share messages like this. It's to be the message. It's to not be afraid to tell your family at Thanksgiving dinner, wow, that's ridiculous. We shouldn't tolerate cops like that. It's being unafraid to tell your cousin who's a police officer, that's kind of embarrassing that you're a police officer. You abuse people for a living. Why would you want to do that? See, when you have that boldness and that power, there's power to it, and it affects society. So it's actually on you, just like it's on me. That's why I use my voice. Okay, we've been going for a while. Actually, the stream looks pretty amazing from what I'm seeing over here. I can't hear myself, but it's looking pretty good. So on that sense, now that I actually got this working here in the studio, it's a pretty good looking stream, I think. Okay, I'm gonna do a little Q&A for those of you that held out this long. These things I'm talking about, they work because we've seen it, we've proven it. We've seen our voices work, right? Ammon Bundy, you know why he was in solitary, guys? Here's a hero for you, right? It doesn't matter if you're politically on the same page as Ammon Bundy. That's just not what it matters. He's protesting for all prisoners. Ammon Bundy and his brother Ryan were in solitary because they said enough is enough. We refuse to be cavity searched and strip searched and molested by you guys. We're not going to do it. We're not going to comply. They're in chains and they're telling these corrupt officers, we're not going to comply with you. That's powerful. So they put him in solitary because the last thing they want in jail is hope. They put him in solitary. They've been there for like 40 days and they didn't cave. Finally today, now they may go back in, but they just let him out of solitary tonight. Okay, they finally said, all right, we're going to let him out of solitary. We can't just keep him in there for that long. Or maybe not. Maybe the voices of you calling the jail is what pressured him into doing it. The warden actually just quit at that jail or was fired. We're not sure. But the warden left at Nevada Southern Detention Center. So even in chains, guys, there's activists that are in prison. Even in chains, your words have power. Your actions, your unwillingness to waver. Okay, looking for a couple good questions. Throw them out there if you want. I am looking at this stream here. I'm just checking everything out. And yes, where are we looking here? I'm just looking to see some questions. Checking the chat. Wow. I was told by my high school by the sheriff that being able to speak out freely is a privilege and that he can take that away from me. Now, to whom I report this? Well, the thing is, the judges are all on board, right? The sheriffs are all complicit. You know what would have had power? You know what would have had power, hardest in a situation like that? Is if kids in the classroom had stood up and said, that's false. You're supposed to be protecting our rights. Think about how much power that has, right? Or if somebody had filmed it, turned on a camera. If 10 students had stood up in that classroom and see, they teach the kids in school to comply. They beat them down. This is why I won't send my kids to these filthy public schools that we have that are just brainwashing camps. Because I teach my kids to be critical thinkers. I'm not sending them to a place where they're fed this kind of stuff. Now, I realize sometimes you're stuck with it. You're in school, you got to deal with it. I'm saying if a few students had stood up, if one had stood up, it would have had power. Would they have put themselves at some risk? Yeah. But that sheriff needs to be challenged. See, it's not about reporting it to someone, because the people you're going to report it to are all the same, guys. They're all on board. The government is wholly sold out from the top to the bottom. Okay? Because, and people say, well, Gavin, you can't make that generalization. If someone in the government is speaking out, you will know it. They'll be on national news. If a sheriff started honoring his oath tomorrow, he'd be on national news tomorrow, and he'd probably be surrounded by National Guard by the end of the day, because he would be arresting judges. He would be setting people free from jail that didn't get due process. He would be honoring his oath to defend. You don't have a constitutional sheriff in America. Not one. All right? So speak out. Even if you don't do it then and there, grab your live stream, right? Say, hey, I just got out of school and my sheriff said this. Name your sheriff. Name names. Put pressure on. Use your voice for power. Gav, will you run for local government or office again? I don't know. I don't see much being fixed from the inside. And the truth is, I'm constantly attacked, right? If I ran for office, the people attacking me are louder than the ones that support me. Because the ones that support are afraid to speak out. The ones that attack are going with the wave of society that says comply, comply, comply. So they have more confidence in attacking. And I'm like, hey, I ran for office and you guys didn't get it. So the truth is, I ran for Congress in 2014. I have more voice right now by simply having used my voice and continuing to do so than almost all the congressmen in Congress. Have you noticed they don't use their voice? They're just doing what they're told. They're just complying, and I'm not going to do that. So maybe someday we'll have a government that's not a government of force and coercion, and I'll be a part of that. I don't know, but if I last that long. But for now, I don't see much benefit in that. Okay, I'm just looking at questions for anything. And listen, I want to address, people say, well, Gavin, you could make the most change if you were in office. That's not true. I've had way more effect out of office than your congressman has in almost every case. Now, that said, that's because they're not using their voice. See, if I was in Congress, I'd be using my voice. I'd be using that platform to speak out and expose corruption. It wouldn't be on the floor of Congress, right? So it would be about my voice. I would have an elevated voice, and therefore I would use that voice. But guess what? None of the congressmen are doing that. Even the ones that are considered bold are really afraid to speak out. How often do you see them going out to the steps of the Capitol with a live stream and saying, here's what's going on? How often do you see them walking down Constitution Avenue with a 45 on their hip saying, I'm not going to comply with the gun restrictions. My job is to represent my constituents, and our rights are intact. They're to remain, right? You don't actually see the congressman using their position to be a voice, because if they did that, it would be instant national news. They have an instant voice, but they don't use it because they're afraid. But we can't be of the spirit of fear. We've got to be strong. And you can do that right now. You can do it whether you're in office, whether you're out of office, whether you're a YouTuber, whether you just have friends on Facebook, because we all have a sphere of influence. Okay? So, thank you guys for all the nice comments. I'm looking for any questions before we wrap up, because I want to call this. Can you film the police anywhere in the USA? Okay. I'm not going to read it to you because I want people to look it up. If you don't know it, I want you to go read the First Amendment. The First Amendment doesn't give us the right to speech. It affirms what already exists. If you really want to get deep into study on that, try getting this book. This book is the actual debates and discussions from the Constitution, from the Convention, okay? In here. It's amazing. There's a ton of information. It's expensive, but if you want to know your rights. Now, if you want to take a simpler approach, get like the treatises of government by John Locke, the Law by Frederick Bastiat. Those are good ones. I'm actually working on writing a book about law itself, but that's a slow process. So look in those books. Frederick, the second treatise of government by John Locke is one of the finest, in my opinion. And the founding fathers actually used that. They referenced that quite a bit when they were writing the Constitution. But here's the things. Back to the question. Can you film police anywhere in the U.S.? I don't ask police for permission to film. Okay? In someone's private home, their private property, they have a right to say, you can't film in here, you have to leave, because it's their private space, right? If I'm dealing with a public official or an officer, the camera goes on. I don't ask. It's not open for discussion, and it will not, under any circumstances, be turned off while they're dealing with me in their official capacity. Have people been arrested for this? Yes, although even our corrupt courts have usually sided with the filmer in most of these cases. That said, it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter if the Supreme Court were to say that I can't film police. I'm not asking. This is what we need, guys. You don't ask. You do it. If I see a police officer harassing someone, if they come to harass me, the camera goes on. I explain what's happening. And usually police around the country are learning. They'll still harass you, but they're usually learning not to knock the camera out of your hand or arrest you, because generally they end up losing. As corrupt as our courts are, that's such a blatant violation of the First Amendment that they usually end up losing. But here's the thing. Don't be afraid. Do what's right regardless. Okay? Do what's right regardless. And hold them accountable. I need to move out of Illinois, says Artist Chicago. I went through Illinois around this time last year, and I can feel it. Sometimes I can, I can feel this spirit in the air almost sometimes. And Illinois sucked. I could feel the tyranny. It was like a weight. And I actually, in different environments, in different cities, in different this is kind of weird, but in different states, and some of you are probably the same way, it's like I drive into the state and I can sense it, right? There was actually a relief when I left Texas, because despite saying they're free, it is so overrun with rampant police abuse and tyranny. And it's even worse because people have convinced themselves there that they're free and that the police are the good guys. So some places are, the tyranny's everywhere, don't get me wrong. Every courtroom, every state, every city, every county, every sheriff's office. But some places it's more oppressive than others. Okay, here, let's do a little troll cleanup. Okay, guys, we've been going on for a while. I think I answered your questions. I'm looking here to see if there's any questions. Arizona is super hot, as is Nevada in the summer. I was in Vegas in like July last year with no air conditioning in my trailer. I fixed the air conditioning issue because I needed that air conditioning. But listen, okay, and remember, some tyrannies are different, right? Like California is terrible on gun laws. They completely violate everyone's rights on gun laws, right? And yet, in some ways, not in a lot of ways, because they're pretty bad, but in a few ways they might be better over here. Like, for example, they might be, in a lot of cases, more used to people filming police, whereas you might catch more flack with that in Texas. Not in every case. I'm not making an absolute here. But like, then you contrast that with Arizona, right? Arizona has pretty lax gun restrictions, although no gun restriction is really lax because they're all illegal and fake. But at the same time, Arizona has lots of other tyranny. So where one tyranny is absent, another one is present in a society where the people do not oppose tyranny. Did I say that right? I think I did. Okay. What should we do? Okay, hang on. I'm looking at questions here. Okay, if I missed your question, put it in there. I can take one or two more questions, and then we're going to wrap up. Joseph, I don't have a consistent time yet for live streams. Maybe we will do that in the future if you guys enjoy them. At the moment, I don't have a consistent live stream time set up. So it's just kind of like you can subscribe and make sure you're subscribed. There might be a way here. I'm not sure if there's an extra button to get notifications on your phone when I go live. I can't answer all the questions, but what type of camera will be best for busting cops? The one you have that's reliable. This is my iPhone 7 Plus, because I'm kind of an iPhone guy, although it's really dumb that there's no headphone jack on this. Not smart. But the main thing, it doesn't matter what camera is, but get a camera, a phone. Here's the one thing I try and do. Whatever you use, get a phone that's quality enough to not be freezing and crashing. The last thing you want is it shutting down in the middle of an important video, okay? So get a reliable device and then use that. I don't carry fancy cameras like the one I'm filming with now if I'm jumping out of the car to go talk to a cop, because it takes too much setup time. I'm going to use the camera I have with me, okay? And let's see. Yeah, we got a lot of people like Kelly Stewart, John Lamb, who weren't even filming before. And I said, pick up your camera, right? Just start talking. And they did. Guys, a year ago, Kelly Stewart and John Lamb were not doing any live streams. They weren't videoing, they weren't talking to cameras. You can do it. Just pick up your camera and start doing it. Just be willing to stop and film. Be willing to show up to support someone at their trial and do a stream from out front saying how corrupt your sheriff is, right? Distance to film cops. The thing is, when cops want to arrest you, they're gonna say you're interfering or you're obstructing, okay? Watch the video from Texas. That was a very hostile situation where I actually retreated a little because I had my kids with me and I didn't want, I wasn't in a position where I wanted to get arrested. I still pushed back, but I did a tactical retreat a little bit because those cops down there are so psycho. That lady cop down there was so psycho, especially, and she was fritzing on me. But I was actually like 50 feet away in my car. So her claims were absolutely false, even under Texas state statutes. Here's the thing. Yeah, I would say we have court rulings and stuff like that, but the reality is the police ignore the law. So I would say don't approach more than 25 feet unless like they're beating someone and you feel like you really have to step up and make your presence known, at which point you might get arrested, right? Remember the video I did a little while ago where the officer threw the disabled man on the ground? I approached pretty close. Initially, while he was taking the guy to the car, I probably stayed 25, 30, 40 feet away. And then afterward, I walked right up to him. I said, what do you think you're doing? That's not okay, right? Because now he wasn't actually engaged in the interaction. But they also know me in this town. Gauge who you're dealing with. Wise as serpents, but harmless as doves, okay? Be peaceful. Don't be slinging language and vulgarities and violence or threats or anything like that. Be the calm one. Let them be the crazy psychos. We're the calm ones. So if you want to see tactics on this, usually if you're filming, you don't have to be that close, okay? So just be careful. Usually I kind of approach slowly. Like I'll kind of be there and then I'll move a little closer. Then I'll move a little closer. And I'm engaging, I'm talking to them. They'll be like, sir, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, it's cool, I'm just filming, right? I'll say disarming words, but at the same time, I'll be very assertive and I won't comply. Then if they say, you need to back off, sir, I'll say, if I'm a little close, I might back off, right? As long as they're not hurting someone directly. But if I'm actually 50 feet away, I'll say, oh no, I'm good. I'm at a safe distance. I will assert my authority. So if you're uncertain about this, there are lots of videos, and I have lots of videos. See the video that I did, one of my early ones with the Boise police, another lady cop. The lady cops can be psycho sometimes. The Boise police stop, I was well out of distance. She left her stop, she walked over to me, and she got aggressive with me. That's a good one to watch. Those are some of the more extreme ones. Usually I'm kind of talking, right? I'm talking to the camera. I'm not skulking. I'm arms wide. I'm announcing myself. And I'm talking, I'm interacting, I'm being assertive, I'm being authoritative. So there's not any one tactic that works. Confidence does help, though. Wearing a suit helps. Looking professional helps. Anime Live Reactions gave $500. I mean, not $500. $5. If somebody wants to give $500 to a super chat, they can do that. You can give $500 in a super chat. And he says, if you were to become president, would you still separate your religious beliefs from laws and policy? Because I believe in separation of religion and state. This could be a whole episode itself, guys. If you've heard me talk, you know that I have beliefs as a Christian, and that's why I do what I do, right? It's why I love my neighbor. Law comes from God. That's where our rights come from. Now, some people say, Gavin, that's crab. I don't believe it. And I'm like, okay, here's what I say to the atheist. Listen, I believe my rights come from God and you don't. But we both believe we have the rights. So let's stand together and defend them. Because I'm not going to use my religion to violate your rights. Okay? Now, people say, oh, in the name of religion, all the abuses of history have been done. You know what? People are always going to use whatever narrative has authority. So now in the name of safety, the abuse is being done. In the name of freedom, the abuse is being done. Yes, in the name of religion, abuse is being done. In the name of atheism, abuse is being done, guys. Tyrants will always be tyrants. So would I separate my beliefs? Let's say I was president, which this country is certainly not ready for. They would, if you want to donate, you can click the little $sign there in the super chat, or you can go to my website, callmegav.com. Okay, but listen. Separation of church and state does not mean your leaders separate their values from their actions. That's how you get tyrants. You have to have men of principle that have values and beliefs and morals, even if you don't agree with the foundation of their beliefs. So the idea, separation of church and state, means that the government is not to force religion on people or interfere in it. It doesn't mean that the people in the government should not have religious values, or even that they shouldn't speak openly about those values. There's nothing wrong with the president having a Bible study in the Oval Office, guys. The issue becomes when he violates the rights of another. The job of a government official is to support life, liberty, and property and defend it for all, okay? What people are really getting at is, are you going to force your beliefs on me? Are you going to kick in my door because I disagree with your religion? And that's absolutely not okay. That's not a Christian value. That's not a liberty value, despite the fact that many so-called Christians out there promote those ideas. As a Christian, I may say, I don't want to be drunken because God tells me not to. And so I don't get high. Does that mean, therefore, that I have the right to kick in your door? Because I say I'm the government and getting high is wrong, so I'm going to kick in your door and put you in prison. No, because there's no victim. You haven't violated the life, liberty, or property of another, and therefore, I have no authority to intervene, even if I'm a cop or a government official. This is why they don't let people like me be cops or government officials. Okay, I hope that made sense. Good question, though. And I'm looking. Allah is not God, in my opinion. But hey, as long as, look, the Muslims, in the Patriot movement, they tend to hate on the Muslims because in the name of Islam, bad things are done, right? But the reality is most Muslims are just normal people like you and I. Do I disagree with a lot of their beliefs? Yes. Do I disagree with Sharia law? Of course. But I also disagree with American law, guys. Make no mistake, our courts are every bit as bad as Sharia law. And if you don't believe it, go look at the sham that just happened in Nevada. Guys, the judge even manipulated the verdict. The judge actually ignored some of the not guilty verdicts in the Nevada trial that just ended and declared it a hung jury. Go see the video I did just earlier. Before I got on here, I did a video on my Facebook page, facebook.com/callmegav. There's a live stream over there where I gave some updates on this. Okay. I'll try and do a video. In my programs, in my live events that I did a tour last year, I explained the foundation of law, okay? And it didn't matter if you were an atheist. We affirmed the foundation of law. Do I have the same belief of where it come from? Yes. But we established law based on natural rights and life, liberty, and property. And that is the foundation. That's where law should be addressed in the civil sense, from the judiciary, from the Congress. Okay? I'm just looking. Yes, Jesus is my king. Thank you, proud American. And I appreciate it. Shout out to proud American. I gotta say though, I'm not a very proud American because America, like, I want to be a proud American. I want to be a proud liberty lover. And we need to be proud again. We need to restore this so we have a nation that is proud. I'm proud of anyone though who's standing for liberty. I'm proud of Schaefer Cox. I'm proud of Jeff Winehouse. I'm proud of the natives who stood with principle at the DAPL. I'm proud of Ammon and Ryan Bundy. See, it's not about faction. We cast out faction. We become factionless. We stop adhering to false authority, and we shame tyranny. And our voices gain power. Dangerous words. Love your neighbor as yourself. That's the foundation of law. That came from God, came from Jesus. But you know what? I don't even think the atheists can disagree that it's a good principle. Okay. I tried to be a congressman once. It didn't work. This is getting really long, and I know you guys are engaging, and that's great. It's cool. I love you guys in here. But go out and make a video, right? Do a video this week. Do a live stream. Stretch yourself, guys. Get on the camera. You can do it. You can do it. It gives you power. Thank you all. Did I cover? I'm sure I missed some questions, but we'll do this again because I can't do it all. Hang on. I'll be right back. There's a question. I will be right back. I have to go get this out of the other room because it's actually just laying on the counter right now. I should hang it back up, I guess. Okay, I'm coming. I'm coming. You can't see me, but I'm coming. Isn't this cool? Microphones, quality cameras. All right. Ooh, crashing into things here. Hey, I'm back. Don't hate. Don't hate. It's not about hate. All right. Somebody asked what I think about college. Here is my master's degree in photography, right? I have a master's degree in this. I got this year, but here's the thing. I didn't go to college. This master's degree came from PPA, which is the largest photographic association in the world, I think, at least in the country. And it's my master's degree. I earned it by winning competitions, by doing, like stuff like this. This got me a couple merits at competition, okay? This went lone. Just a little day job stuff here before we wrap up, since it's late anyway and we're all half asleep. Okay, so I earned it by merits, and I think that's a way better way because it took me years. I actually made a concerted effort to start going for my master's degree just as a challenge like 6 or 7 years ago. And I've been doing photographics for 20 years. So to me, it validated my, real skill. I'm proud of it, but still, it's just a piece of paper, right? It's my skill that matters. So if you need to go to college, fine, but we've way overhyped this college. Here's the bottom line. They want our young people in education systems so that they control their minds, okay? They control how they think, they control what they think is okay, they control what they shame. My kids are free thinkers. They have values, they have principles, but they're free thinkers because I don't send them into a school system that's going to try and take over their minds, that's going to tell them that freedom is bad, that guns are bad, that speaking out is bad, and that police should be worshipped. I'm not going to have my kids be educated in that way. And when they become of age, and it's their choice, they might very well say, well, I don't want to go to a college and hear that garbage anyhow. Now, if they have something they want to go to school for, great. But the reality is, they're pumping people through colleges, guys, for this. To put burdens of debt and money and control on them. A lot of the people aren't even using their degrees. So whether you've been to college or not means nothing in how much I respect you. I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, whatever. Fake authority. Guys, I can talk circles around almost every lawyer I've ever met when it comes to law. They don't even know the law. They didn't learn law. They learned manipulation, lies, politics, protocol, maybe a little presentation. Most of them aren't even good at that. Are there a few out there that are trying? Yes. But the point is, law school isn't teaching law anymore. So if I want to learn law, I study and I learn law. Okay? Which is why I know a lot about it. Not because I have a degree. You don't need a degree. You need passion. You need to do what's right. Okay. Let's see here. Just looking. Should we shut down? It is so late. It's like 11 o'clock. I need to go home. This is like one of these weird, forever ongoing live shows. But I'm kind of loving, like, for me as a visual guy, these are painful. I remember one of the first, let me tell you a little story. One of the first, yes, know how to read, but I teach my kids how to read. My son is 8, or is he 9 now? Man, I'm getting old. Ugh, I think he's 9. But he probably reads at like a 9th grade level because he wants to, right? There's this idea that what schools teach us is really hard and no one else can teach you. That's BS. You can teach your kids at home. You can teach yourself the same thing that somebody's getting a degree. We've made a sham of education in this country. If you have the skills, you should be given the degree if you can prove those skills. That should be a real degree. A lot of people get these degrees and they're completely incompetent. And we all know that's true. Some of them get degrees and they're competent, don't get me wrong, and some teachers are competent too. So I'm not trying to hate on everybody, I'm just saying that we've kind of made a sham of this stuff. But the little story I was going to tell you as a photographer, one of my early incidents that got a lot of attention was that interaction with the Boise police. If you search for Boise police, Gavin Seim, you'll find this video. And so I was driving through. I was out actually doing a video project for my photography. I was working on my photographics workshop, which is one of my educational workshops that I sell over at seimeffects.com. And I was out with my brother. We were a month on the road. I had my family, and he had his family, and we were out traveling and filming. And we were passing through Boise, and I pulled into a parking lot, and we just stopped briefly, like at Cabela's or something in Boise, Idaho. And I saw this cop, so I went over and filmed. I'm not going to explain the whole video because you can see what happens when you go watch it. The bottom line is I was in town for like 2 hours, and I turned the place upside down. It was the talk of the town for the next week. Everybody was debating about whether Gavin Seim should have called out this officer. Was it because I was so famous? No. I mean, a day later, my phone was ringing off the hook from the news media, but nobody had ever heard of me. Most of these people down there, at least, had never heard of me. I'd been around. I think this was after I ran for Congress? No, maybe it was before. But all of a sudden, this was the news. It was the discussion. Because I didn't go to the media and say you should talk about stories of police abuse. I made the story by simply standing up and speaking out. And so I remember I was being interviewed on one of the radio shows, and this guy was saying, "So you're a filmmaker?" And because I'm a photographer and a filmmaker, and he's like, "So you're a filmmaker?" And he was referring to my activism video, and he's like, "I mean, I'm using that term loosely. You're not exactly Scorsese, right?" And I remember that. I always remember that because I just kind of winced, and I said, "No. That's my activism. That's not my filmmaking. That's just a phone camera and me speaking out. My filmmaking is actual filmmaking." So what I was getting to here is seeing a stream, being able to live stream like this from a real camera, a real rig, real sound, is really kind of exciting for me. I need to simplify the process a little bit, but it's nice to have good visuals. But you don't need that. Remember, most of my activism has been done from my phone. My most popular videos on this channel have been done from my phone. The Oregon Live standoff of the Final Four that was watched live by like 100,000 people, plus all the mainstream news that was running that standoff when we had them on the phone. It was done from my phone, guys. Power, right here. Our voice is power. Okay. Thank you, Colleen. And yes, I am a believer, and you can go back in the video to see more about that or go to my website. But I'm not... There's actually... I do more of talk on more personal matters like this on my Facebook. On my Facebook, there's actually some Bible studies and stuff I've done over there about Romans 13 and the farce. Because I'm a believer, but the mainstream organized church in America is so corrupted, guys. Don't think of that as Christianity. Because the church in America is not representatives of Christ by and large. They're frauds. They're charlatans. They're telling you, come to our church, give us your money, obey the government because we play along with them. That's all a sham. You want to learn about Jesus? Forget what the church and the latest bestseller is saying, what the fake American church is saying. Get in the Bible. All right. Anime Live Reactions is another $5, so thank you. But you know what? I try to answer everyone's questions that comes through. But if you donate within reason, I'm going to answer your question. What are your thoughts on North Korea versus USA potential war should it happen? Guys, our government is creating fake war, fake terror, and they are the terrorists. Now, does this mean North Korea is not corrupt? No, no, no. North Korea is like super tyrant, right? But we're out trying to make war, right? We're trying, it's like, I'm like, come on, you guys. It's like, people are telling me, don't worry, Gavin, Trump's going to set the prisoners free. He's going to stand up for us. And he's already out trying to start World War III. It's not our business to tell the rest of the world what they can do. And you know what? If the time comes when it's our business to intervene because another government is abusing people and we want to defend those people's rights, then we can talk. But we're not even there. Get our own house in order. Our government is the most abusive government on the planet. We have more people in prison than any other nation on the planet. Our government, our blue line, our enforcer Gestapos are the greatest terrorists in the world. And so they sell us fear of Islam. They sell us fear of ISIS, right? Even though our government, our government is funding ISIS. Our government is behind ISIS, at least in some way. And so basically our government pays the terrorists to be terrorists. They are the terrorists, and then they say we're going to war with terrorists. It's an absolute sham. All right, I hope I answered that question. I don't have much time for sports. Oh, you know what? No, I do a sport. I paraglide. That's my sport. I used to play tennis. Somebody said, do I play sports? Thank you, Vinny. I appreciate it. I may have missed it, but I appreciate it. So my sport, and my wife does it too, is we paraglide. If you don't know what paragliding is, it's amazing. Go search for it when this video is over and you'll see it. And there's a few videos out there of me doing it. But basically I take a huge, huge kite that lifts you off the ground and I lift a kite up that's about 40 feet wide and then I run off a hill and I'm flying. And it's amazing. It gets me closer to God. And you just kind of sitting there. Last fall, I flew off an 11,000 foot peak in Utah. And I think the floor was about 6,000. So it was about 6,000 feet of vertical descent. We spent an hour like driving up here. And it wasn't, people think of it as running off cliffs. It's similar to hang gliding, but it's soft. So I can carry the whole thing in a backpack. People think of it as running off cliffs. And you can do cliff launches, but usually you're actually just going off a hill and the thing just picks you up and you glide out. So I flew miles and miles. Very cool. Okay. Let's see here. Oh yeah, paramotor's on my list, Max, for this year because, well, versatility. I travel a lot, and there's a lot of cool places where I'm like, this is amazing sunset. I could be flying if I had a launch. So a paramotor's on our list if I can budget it for this year. All right, guys. So Dustin, thanks for popping in there. We're going to wrap it up here. It's super late. I need to get home. I haven't eaten dinner yet or anything. Spread the word. Like, comment, subscribe. Most of you have already been commenting. Share this. Spread the word. Head over to my Facebook, facebook.com/callmegav. If you want to pitch in or donate or just see my recent blog posts or subscribe to my newsletter, callmegav.com. And yes, this will be posted on the channel just like any other video when we're done here, so you will be able to replay it. Glad you guys enjoyed. Yeah, these churches are always, somebody mentioned the Catholic Church trying to ban marijuana and stuff. Listen, I mean, I'm an herbalist, and when I say an herbalist, if you've watched my videos on herbs, they're on my channel too. I have a room full of like medicinal herbs. At the moment, there's no marijuana in there. I've never actually had any marijuana, and I don't get high and I don't get drunk. But marijuana does have real medicinal value, and so we see, again, it's fakery coming from churches so often. They totally ignore the abuse of our government. They totally ignore the suffering of our neighbor because it's profitable to do so. And then they say, let's put people in jail for a plant. Guys, when you live in a nation where people are literally locked in tiny iron cages for a plant, taken away from their family, their lives stolen and destroyed, and murdered if they resist, you don't have a free society. That is pure insanity. That's pure insanity. That's not law. That's fake law that needs to be shamed. So it's not that I want everybody out getting high. It's that I absolutely will not support someone being abused, molested, murdered, and caged for possessing an object, a thing, or a plant. Same goes for gun possession crimes, or really any possession crime. They're all fake. They're all fake. Yes, I do have a glass of wine, but I avoid the drunkenness. I think we're in perilous times, and aside from the fact that God says, Gavin, don't get drunk, we need our wits about us. I don't want my mind hollowed down, right? We need our wits about us because this is a crazy world we live in. Freedom for India, huge wall. Everybody stand up. Rights aren't an American thing. They're a human thing, human rights. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men and women are created equal. That's the facts. All right, I'm going to call it a night before you all fall asleep. We had a good Q&A, way too long, but maybe it's okay to do these long ones now and then so we can talk. So if you guys enjoyed this, we will do it again so I can get some of the questions that I missed. Thank you for those who pitched in, who donated a few bucks. That's always nice. Thanks for buying me lunch or dinner, as the case may be. Freedom for all people. Doesn't matter. Throw out the faction. Forget your party. Forget your political party. Forget your political organization. Forget your church denomination. Stand up. Love your neighbor as yourself. What does standing up mean right now? Right now, today? It means you stop being silent. It means we start shaming the tyranny. It means you use your voice to say, that's not okay, and I'm not going to be silent. And defend those who are poor and beaten and broken down and robbed and caged and abused and molested by our government or by any government. All right, I'm going to go over here. I'm going to stop this and see if it stops. But I'm going to be careful what I say for the next few minutes because this is a device has done some weird stuff tonight. I accidentally started live streaming earlier, so I'm going to assume I have a hot mic for the next few minutes. I have started a Patreon, and I'm looking at that. There's actually, if you go to my videos, a Patreon shows up there of a project I'm working on, and I might switch it around a little. It's something I'm thinking about. So, guys, we could stay here all night, but like Stephen Mark says, it's 2 a.m. in Virginia. It's 11 p.m. here in Washington. And things are crazy, and I got a lot to do. And I got more to do tomorrow. How do I feel about my wiki page? I mentioned that earlier. It's really annoying when people are vandalizing my Wikipedia page. I don't mind it being... It's not like they have to be sycophants for Gavin. I just wish they would tell the truth and not be lying and trying to spin my words in a way that's simply not true. And in fact, it's been vandalized this past week to the point where things are saying how Gavin stopped Hang on. Did I lose it? Is it back? I lost the stream. So I think my battery went dead. I don't know if you guys can still hear me. The battery went, no, it's back. Boom, baby, yeah. All right. Hang on, let me put my master's degree on so I have my symbol of authority. No, kidding. It's not what gives you authority. Degrees are not what give you authority. Action is what gives you authority. All right? If you don't know what I'm talking about there, I talked about degrees a little earlier on. Okay, it worked. That was cool. The battery actually went dead. The streaming box kept working. I put a new battery in the camera. It came on, and there we are. But I was about to wrap up, so thank you all. Keep standing up and loving your neighbor in this present evil world. Do the right thing. And, check out what Jesus would do. Love your neighbor as yourself. I'm going to press stop. I hope you guys enjoyed. Have a good night. Peace.